Builder! What is this? This is the PDmovie Live Air 2 wireless follow focus system. Costs anywhere from $250 to $300. You can use either the remote wheel or a smartphone app to control the motor. AB points are available and extremely quick to set up at any given moment. You can even calibrate lenses automatically or manually if you have a lens with no hard stops. Do I recommend this over the Tilta Nucleus Nano? Yes. For most budget filmmakers that do not rig out their cameras to an extreme degree, the Live Air 2 is extremely intuitive and fast to customize and set up. You should only go for the Nucleus Nano if you primarily use a gimbal setup and need less weight on the gimbal, or if you do major rigging where all your battery needs are coming from a Sony V-mount battery. Done. Roll that intro. Hey, what's going on everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not the Live Air 2, a wireless follow focus system made by PDmovie or sometimes distributed by Ikan, is going to be the right solution for you and your overall filmmaking kit. And I want to thank PDmovie for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review today. Coming in at approximately $300 for a full kit, this one does come with the Rig Air. You're going to get yourself the remote, which is actually a wheel version. They have another one that's more of a toggle version. You get the new motor, which is much smaller than the original Live Air. And of course, you get this little cage to kind of mount everything up should you want to go that route. The main thing I love about this entire setup is the fact that it's extremely easy to set up and very, very quick to do so. So basically, I'm going to walk you through it super quick. I have mine mounted on the hot shoe, so not using the Rig Air, and I'll tell you why I don't prefer to use the Rig Air later in the bottom line. But once you have everything set up, to turn on the motor, you actually have to slide the battery in. To turn it off, you have to slide it out. I'm not exactly sure why they went with this route, but it's honestly not that big of a deal. Once you turn that on, you turn on the remote, the lights are going to blink for a second and then it's going to connect. Once it's done connecting, if you have a lens with hard stops, simply you just hold the button on the motor and it starts auto-calibrating. If you want to calibrate from the remote side, you can actually do that. Simply just follow the instructions on the back of each of these motors so you can see what kind of Morse code you have to tap into the one single button to calibrate. Once it's done calibrating, you're good to go. But let's say you have a lens like the Sigma 18-35 that does not have any hard stops. Well, the moment you turn on the motor and once it's all linked up, simply move the lens with the motor attached to it, of course, to infinity or close focus, doesn't matter, and then you move to the other extreme end. After that, simply move back towards the center and it's actually going to start moving on its own because you've now successfully calibrated to a non-hard stop lens. Super simple. Now, on the remote side, you can actually do AB points and it's extremely quick to do so. Simply move to your point A, click on the remote button once. Move to point B, click on that button one more time. That's it. You've now set it to AB points and you're in AB mode now, so you can go back and forth, no problem. To jump out of AB mode, simply click that button one last time and that's it. Now you're back to regular mode. Super simple. Now let's say on the remote, you're not used to going close focus in one certain direction. It's very easy to change that. Simply click on that button 7 times and there you go. You've now switched directions and basically I love the fact that they have this feature because now no matter how you orient that remote or who you give it to, depending on how they feel most natural in terms of pulling focus, that's all they need to do. Let's say you forgot your actual remote or it died and you're just trying to get through the last shot, what have you. You can actually use the smartphone app to control the remote. You can't use the remote and the smartphone app at the same time. So when you power on that motor, whichever one latches onto the signal first is the one that's going to be used. So it's really awesome with this smartphone app because you kind of get a couple extra things here. Not only can you do the whole AB points and whatnot, but once you've calibrated the lens to the motor, you can actually customly put exactly what the distance markers are from close focus to infinity focus. Not only that, you can actually save these distance markings into its custom library, and that way, no matter what lens you put the motor on, you simply load up the profile that you've already made and it throws those distance markers up there for you. So that's pretty darn awesome. Now, how does it feel to actually use the focus wheel? Honestly, it's really nice because it has a decent amount of drag so that you don't suddenly shoot the focus way past what you need to. It's easy to go smooth and slow. With the remote being so small and wireless, here's me easily pulling focus on myself at 100mm focal length with the remote in one hand and my thumb making the A-B movements. When in handheld mode here, in my preferred configuration, you can see just how smooth and easily it is to pull focus when my hand is no longer twisting the lens barrel. So what's the bottom line here? What are the pros and cons of this system, and should you be looking at the Nucleus N? Well, the pros of this system is it's not terribly expensive, coming in at about $300, and I think you can get it cheaper if you don't buy the Air Rig kit. I haven't found that yet, but the original version came in at about $260 if you didn't buy the Air Rig kit version. So it's not terribly expensive. It works very well, and it's extremely fast to set up. That is the major deal. But I also love the design of the whole thing because this is my preferred method. I don't actually prefer the Air Rig, and this is probably the only con, is the cage is on the outside towards the ports. So if you hold onto the cage, your hand is now basically blocking your HDMI if it's coming out to a monitor. And if you're using a flippy screen, that's also going to butt into your hands too. So if you prefer to have the remote on your left hand and you want to hold on to something and move it there, you're probably going to have to find a different way to go about it. But quite personally, I think this is the best setup. Having yourself some 15mm rails on the bottom here, it allows you to hold on to the camera and shift your weight position if you're going handheld, and it keeps your fingers away from the focus ring so that you don't accidentally stop it. So this is what I actually prefer. And like I said, having it up here, your hand is already gripping the body, so simply moving your index finger or kind of shifting your palm up and moving it just a little bit over here, that's very simple for you to go handheld with this setup. If I do want to add a monitor at some point, then I will buy a cage, and I'll probably move a couple things around so that I can have the monitor up here somehow with everything here. I don't know. I don't really shoot that way. This is the way I shoot. Not only that, I love the design of having the hot shoe up here, and they purposely want to basically tell you to put the motor on top. I've actually been saying this for many, many years. Why in the world do they have this big honkin' follow focus motor on the side causing the weight to lean whichever way? It never made sense to me. I always said it makes more sense to have it on the hot shoe. And PDmovie went ahead and did that in their very first version. So this keeps all the weight down center. Again, if you're going handheld or if you're on a tripod of sorts or whatever it is that you're doing, you're not tipping over front heavy. You're keeping everything lined up, and therefore as you're moving your body and you're pulling focus and you're doing all that stuff, it doesn't feel weird in your hands. It feels a lot more natural. All right, so the last question is, what about the Nucleus N? Because the Nucleus N is coming in much cheaper, approximately $70 cheaper if you can't actually buy just the Live Air 2 on its own. But how do they compare? Personally, for me, I would go with the PDmovie. And the reason I say this is because the Nucleus N requires you to power the motor externally. Because when you're buying into that specific system, you're already rigging out your entire camera. Like you got a cage, you got a V-mount battery maybe, and you're doing all sorts of stuff. So what they're trying to do is making sure that the motor isn't super heavy. Having that cable go back to the camera body where the principal weight is. And that way you keep most of the weight away from the camera for better balancing and less bulky bits around the camera buttons for rigging. Okay, the actual last bit. Who do I actually recommend this for? Basically, independent filmmakers on a budget. I don't really think there's anything else in this price range with this feature set and how fast you can actually set this up. So if you're a narrative filmmaker on a budget and you need a wireless follow focus solution, I think the PDmovie is definitely much more easier to use and much faster to set up than considering the Nucleus N. Unless you have everything already rigged up all the time and you want that extra battery source and cable going to it, then that's how you would want to use it. For me personally, who shoots handheld most of the time, and I'm the one pulling focus, I don't actually have a first AC pulling for me, this is the setup I would go with. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.